Okay, so let's finish off some of the shailas. Good morning, welcome to some of the shailas of Purim that we left off with. Ben, are you writing this down? So like this, couple of shailas that we have to discuss. Number one, and again, all of these really do require a tremendous amount of each one requires a share on its own, but just to go through some of the things. Number one, davening while you are drunk. So we know already from the Gemara, Brachas Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph, by the Sugya of Chana, when she walked in, Eli Cohen thought that she was drunk, and the Gemara learns from here that it's also for a person to daven when he is drunk. In fact, the Pichodesh and others want to learn that it's even when a person drinks only a revius of wine, he already should be asked. Now it's interesting, if you look in the Shulchan Aruch in Simon Tzadi Tes, Shulchan Aruch brings like this: Shosei yain kedei revius, al yispalal ad sheyosei yainoi. That means if a person drinks a revius of wine, which is a standard amount of wine for a person to drink, minimum-wise, right? Minimum is a revius over there. Shulchan Aruch says you should not daven until the wine basically wears off. V'im shosa yoisa. What if you drink more than a revius of wine, which is very negeya? So im hu yochol ledabel lefnei hamelech. If you have the ability with your state to speak in front of a king, im hispalel lashon of Shulchan Aruch. If you did already, that means it sounds like from Shulchan Aruch you should not daven. But if you did, then tefillah so tefillah. Your tefillah works, and the reason for why it works, b'di'eved, is because at the end of the day you can speak in front of a melech. If a melech was there, the president of America was there, you'd be able to speak with some kind of normality. So maybe lechatchila you shouldn't because you drank more than a revius, but b'di'eved your tefillah works. And then he continues, if you are so drunk that you're not able to speak normally in front of a king, im hispalel. Again, obviously you shouldn't daven, but if you did daven in that state of mind, tefillah to'eva, very stark lashon. Your tefillah is, so to speak, disgusting. It's not nice. The Rebbeinu doesn't want it. You have to re-daven again when the wine has worn off. Doesn't make a difference. We know that when a person is a shogeg, it's a din tashlumin. Tashlumin means that you can make up the next tefillah, right? It only works for one tefillah, which basically means that if a person is completely drunk and he's unable to daven, or he passed out and he did not daven, and then he chaps, oh my gosh, I didn't daven mincha, which by the way, we should all make sure to daven mincha before the Suda, or before you start drinking properly, so at least Erev Shabbos, right here, your Tezvov, you should, or even on your Dalah, doesn't make a difference, you daven mincha before the Suda, so that you daven mincha already. But for example, let's say this year, you're Tesvav, Friday, the Olim are drinking, Olim are having the Suda, they've already done Mincha already, he wakes up, it's already middle of the night, right? The middle of the night. Oh, what happened to Mariv? I missed out on Mariv. What should I do? I wanted to, I had intention to, but I was passed out on the floor, on the couch, on the bed, whatever. I wake up in the morning, it's Shachris already. Shabbos Shachris. So Lemaisa, you can daven 2 Shachrises of Shabbos, and the first one is for now. That's the dinner tashlumin, by the way. That if you do 2, the first one is for the chiyuv now, and the second one you do is for what you miss. But that's a din of a shogeg, when like the Shulchan Aruch is telling us over here. What about Kiddush? To make Kiddush also. If you miss Kiddush. Yeah, if you miss Kiddush. That's a good one. If you miss Kiddush as well. Now, Gei Yerushalayim. If you miss Kiddush and Nechanami. V'din zuk the Ramah krishma kedin tefillah. Aval shah brochas yochel levarach aval b'shur sheka. The Ramah says clearly that krishma and Shmoneh Esrei have the same din. That means, again, krishma is kabbalas o malchus shamayim. It's a kavaldik, it's a mila. You have to do it when you're in a proper state of mind in order to makabel the ol malchus shamayim. If a person is drunk, so you can't really do that. Oh, but the rest of the brachas, zuk the Ramah, that we have no problem with a person making other brachas when he is drunk. But upon him, that's the basic idea about, again, getting drunk and things like that. Let's move on a little bit to another couple of interesting shailas. Another one. La Yilbash. Very common shaila people ask, can I dress up as a woman? Okay, it's a common shaila. Is a person allowed to dress up as a woman? It's a shaila the whole year about wearing various things, using certain things that are for the opposite gender. What's the din of the issa of la yilbash? We know there's a pasuk in the Torah, la yilbash gever simlas isha, and we know there's also a machlokas why it's asa. According to the Rambam, the reason why it's asa for a person to dress of the opposite gender is because they used to do this with avodah zarah, so steht in Rambam, and therefore we want to distance a person from anything that has connection to avodah zarah. Don't dress up like the opposite gender. The chinuch wants to say pshat. that it leads a person to znus. When a person is dressing up like the opposite gender, he could go into the other side of the mechitza, he could get close to the other type, and therefore it could lead to znus, as I state in the chinuch. So it comes out that anything that's miyuchad for the other gender is going to be also for you to wear because of this issa in that case. Now it's interesting, agav in the halachas, there's a famous Bach, Chacham Ovadia, by the way, in Yabi Oima, there's Chaylik on the Bach, he has read many rayas from Rishonim against the Bach. But Al Kapon in the Bach, and Moshe held this way also, is kavanah is very important. I'll give you an example. If you see, let's say you're walking down the street and it starts to rain, and you see a couple walking, and the guy's holding a pink umbrella. I don't think anyone's going to say, ooh, the Yilbash. Everyone's going to say, obviously his wife had the umbrella, and he's holding it, whatever it is, because, she's with him and it started to rain. When the kavanah is not for that purpose, then the Bach held there was actually mutar. So the shaila is the Gabe Purim. When it comes to Purim, what is the din of a person that wants to wear one garment or dress up completely like the opposite gender? So the Ramah Tofrei Sarivov says that the minig was that they did it, that people dressed up as the opposite gender, and it was part of the kavanah of the celebration. It was what they did, it was what people did, and therefore, since the kavanah is only for simcha and not for the intention of be'etzem being the opposite gender, so the Ramah paskins it's mutar. However, if that's true, that is true, that's what the Ramah holds, or but many poskim, we'll mention some of them right now, the Chidah, the Yotzeit, the Chochmah Sodom, the Yalkut Yosef, the Chavadas, the Aruch HaShulchan, the Bach, the Tazan, the Heilige Chofetz Chaim, and the Mishnah Berurah is Cholik, and they hold that it's absolutely awesome. In fact, somebody came to Rav Scheinberg Zatzal, and they asked him for their kids. Okay, Bishlam and adult, we understand, right? But sometimes the kids, want to dress up as this one wants to be Vashti, I don't know what. So the kids want to do these things. So maybe for kids it's okay. So they came to Rav Scheinberg, and they asked the Rebbe Rav Scheinberg, what do we do? And Rav Scheinberg said, absolutely not. Even for children, it is going to be asa. Moving on. Just a random shaila, which we're not even going to go into, but I just want to mention. I always say, sometimes we may not after these halachas have all the answers, but we may at least know what the shailas are, and then we go to our local Orthodox rabbi, and we ask him what to do. I'll give you an example. This is a common one. Tfilas kelim. Let's say, for example, you're buying a dish, and you want to put on that dish various things of food that are going to touch directly the food on the dish. So for example, you want to buy a nice dish for somebody, and you're not just going to give them the dish for shlachmanas, right? You're going to put on the dish, you're going to put some freshly made cookies. I don't know, whatever. So the shaila is, what about tfilas kelim? Right, so it's a brand new thing. Right, glass is chayim midrabanan for tfilas kelim, and I want to give it to someone. I'm not putting packets of bizli on it, which is not touching the actual container. I'm talking about putting freshly baked cookies or something like that onto the tray. What is the din of tfilas kelim? So what is the common answer that people say? No, what is the common answer that people always say? First time. Oh, very good. One time use says it's okay. There's no makar. I challenge you to find a makar for such a thing. It doesn't exist. People say it's a heter. You're allowed to use it once without tefillah. It doesn't exist. It's not true. It's sheker. There's no halacha that you're allowed to use it once without tefillah. You're not allowed to use it once without tefillah. That's the halacha. But however, what do you do in that case? So someone will say that, again, we're not going to go into the shaila because this alone could take us 20 minutes. But someone will say, pshat, there's a halacha that if you're not using something as a kli suda and you're using it as a kli schayra, so then it's not chayiv in tefillah. For example, if you own a restaurant and that restaurant buys crockery, china, silverware, cups, glasses, whatever, so it could be, Dar Ketshuva, the Munkatcher brings this down, that it could be that you don't have to tovel anything. You're a yid, you bought it from a goy. The halacha is that when a yid buys a metal or glass kli from a goy, it requires tvilas kelim to get off the tumah from being owned from a goy, and I bought it from a goy. So what do I do? So someone will say it's a kli schayra, it's a business thing, right? The whole parasha that talks about it is like a kli midyon, whatever. Talking about a kli suda, something you use for eating purposes. I'm not using it as eating purposes, I'm using it for a business. I'm using it for my restaurant. And therefore, if I'm using it for my restaurant, so a fellow once called me on the way to a pub. He says to me, am I allowed to drink from the glasses? Can I have beer directly from a glass? A yid owns the pub. It was in Israel. A yid owns the pub. And the problem is he probably didn't tovel. He's not religious. He didn't tovel anything. I'm allowed to drink from a glass that was never toveled, right? So, apart from obviously the Musa Shmuz that we had on the side about where he's going and what he's doing, someone say it could be according to that, there's no problem with Tvidas Kelim. Because the guy who owns it maybe it's not chayiv in Tvidas Kelim, because for him it's a business item. He's using it to make money. He's not using using it to eat from. If he himself, Rav Moshe talks about this in Igros Moshe, uses it as a Kli Suda, that means he sits down every so often and has supper with it and uses it, so then he himself uses it as a Kli Suda, so then he won't help you. Is anyone with me? Reuven, you with me? Yeah. Okay, so someone a taina that when you take buying shlachmonas, it's not really a Kli Suda, it's a Kli Schayra. I'm doing business with it, I'm giving it to someone. Others want to say that what I can do is I can tovel it for him, right? It's a bit shvach because maybe he doesn't need it. I'm not going to go into all the details right now, but just to know that such a shaila would exist. Another very important shaila is shinoi mokoim. This is very, very common. When the oilam are going to be going around on Purim, from one house to another house to another house to another house. You're drinking a cup of wine in his house, a cup of wine in his house, and mazonis over there, mazonis over there. You're running all over the place, right? So obviously you have shailas of bracha achrona as well, which is a whole different shaila. But bracha rishona is number one. What do you do when it comes to bracha rishona? We know that the Gemara in Pesachim tells us, Paskin and Shulchan Aruch, that you have a shinoi mokim, you have to make a brand new bracha rishona. That means when you change your location, you now have to make a new bracha rishona. So be'etzem, when you go into one person's house and you drink some wine or Coca-Cola or have a cookie or some crisps or whatever, when you go to the next person's house, you have to make a brand new bracha rishona because you lost the original bracha rishona because you changed your location. However, Rav Shammai Gras, the Belzadain and Shevet Akasi Tainas, that it could be on Purim, a bacha or someone who's going from place to place, is called a Holchei Drachim. Right? The Shulchan Aruch talks about a Holchei Drachim, someone that does never kuveya his mokim in one place. If you never kuveya your mokim in one place, you don't have a place to change to. It's only when you mishana your mokim, where this is my mokim, now I move to the next place, I change my place, now so the Rambam is Hesach Hadas, I have to go on your new bracha v'shayna. But in the case where I was a Holchei Drachim, meaning lichatchila, I'm going from place to place. Let's take a better example. A guy's holding a glass of wine with him as he walks from place to place on Purim. Very common, right? So he's got his glass of wine, he's got his bottle of wine, keeps on refilling, and he's drinking, going to his house, he's drinking, going to his house, he's drinking. That's Poshra Holchei Drachim. He's got it with him the whole time. He was never Kareis Market. But even if he doesn't have it with him, and he's going from place to place, if he knows he's doing that, and he was never Kareis Market, and he's only there for a short amount of time, I'm not talking about he's only there for an hour or two, that's something else, then Avadi should make a bracha v'shayna and a bracha achrona and then move on. But in case he's going mitching for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, one after the other, to all the neighbors, to all the, whatever it is, then he would not require a problem of bracha v'shayna. You had a question?
Yeah. Would I be able to say a bracha once in the morning, like on Hagefen, and have that in mind for the whole day?
And there's no hefsek in between. If you have an interruption of a nice amount of time in between, then you're going to have a problem. If you're constantly drinking the entire time, because it will only be Yaitzer, Bisal Salanto, the Sfasemes, of Adlo Yada is a P'tur, not a Chiyuv, so Memela, the Chiyuv is until you get there, so I'm going to continue drinking until I get there. Say Nechanami, so I hear that. So you constantly drink it the whole time, one bracha in the morning, we'll keep on going the whole time, as long as there's no interruption, no Hesek Hadas, no Hefsek, right?
How long is that?
It's hard to say an exact time, but let's say you stop for a Gezinta Mincha. Mincha on Purim, the mile of a Mincha on Purim is not poshet. You don't just daven Mincha on Purim. It's mamish. Oh, Yom HaKippurim. That's the aside. Shmuel, Yagavaldik. Let's move on. Two last small shaylos, Rabbi. So again, we're poshet skimming the surface, but I'm just giving the oilam what to think about. A Suda on Erev Shabbos. So we're all familiar with the Gemara. The Gemara in Gittin Lamed Beis tells us about a family that was wiped out. And the Gemara wants to know why were they wiped out. And the Gemara says they were wiped out because they were Kavei Suda on Erev Shabbos. Everyone asked the question, how were they meant to know? Good. So we learn from them that you're not allowed to be Kavei Suda on Erev Shabbos. But how is that Mishpacha allowed to know? So Lamaisa, whatever it is, L'alacha Lamaisa, for a person to be Kavei Suda on Erev Shabbos is a huge problem. People don't have this. I get calls from people from Bacham on Erev Shabbos, they're in a hotel. Oh, this haksha, that haksha, right? Can I know the breakfast you get on a Friday morning in a hotel is bigger than any breakfast or any lunch you probably get anywhere else, which by the way is asa. Even on Friday morning, you cannot have a breakfast bigger than you normally have. It's not covered Shabbos to have on Erev Shabbos something bigger than you have on Shabbos itself. But that's besides the point. But the problem is to be Kavei Suda on Erev Shabbos is going to be problematic. What do? There are two reasons why you can't be Kavei Suda. Number one is we want a person to have a good appetite, so that when Shabbos comes in, he's going to be ready, he's going to be geschmack to eat, he wants to eat, he's not full. And number two is we want a person to be busy with Shabbos in Yonim, not busy with eating a Suda. And if a person is having a huge Suda on Erev Shabbos, he's not going to be busy preparing for Shabbos Kodesh. So because of that, and again, this halacha requires a lot of explanation at a different time, the Ramah says like this: even though to be Kovei Suda on Erev Shabbos is Asa. If the Zman of the Suda is Erev Shabbos, then it's Mutter. So for example, if a person has a bris Suda or a pigeon ben, where the Zman came out on Erev Shabbos, so I didn't choose to have an Erev Shabbos, that's when the Zman of the Suda is. What do you want from me? Then there are more paskins, it's Mutter. Hu Adin, this year in Yerushalayim Ira Kodesh, or anywhere that keeps Tezvav Adar also, it's Erev Shabbos. The Zman of the Purim Suda is Erev Shabbos. So what do you want from me? I can't choose to do it any other time. That's when Purim comes out. I'm allowed to go along and have a Suda on Erev Shabbos. Aber zog the Mishnah Berurah, avad and avad, you should have it before Chatzos. That means, what a person should be doing lichatchila, according to most poskim, is washing before chatzos. You start before chatzos. You can continue afterwards and continue going, but at least you start before chatzos, and that Be'ez Hashem is what we're doing in the yeshiva. Also, is we're starting before chatzos, and this way we kovei Suda Erev Shabbos because the Ramah said the Zman is Erev Shabbos. That's okay, but we're starting before chatzos. Now there is a shaila povis mapo makadish, which we're not going to go into at this moment in time because it's quite complicated. Maestro Bezul Obach told me that a Baal Nefesh should not do it, and that's what Ishver of Elyashiv paskind, and that betzim he learns from the Magen Avraham. That Poris Mapo Makadish means that Lemaisa you can continue going up until Shkia. Poris Mapa, cover over the table, right? Bring Lecha Mishnah, make Kiddush. Basically make Kiddush again, right? Be Mekabel Shabbos, make Kiddush, and then continue the Suda as normal without having an actual break, right? It's a shaila. A lot of people do it. I'm not going into now those that do it. Those got their own personal rabbonim that say it's okay, gavaldik. But I know Rabbi Zul Obach told me it's not a chatchila, and there's no paskin hishver Rabbi Yashiv, and the Ma'aser Rabbi Shlomo Zalman. Also, the minig is to do it before chatzos, and that's what we're doing here in yeshiva, is before chatzos, and this way we make sure we wash before chatzos and start the Suda at least before there. Last thing, Rabbi Isai, which is probably the most complicated shaila, which we're not going to go into, but I'm just going to mention, and that is the traveling shaila. As I said to you in the beginning of the halachas, there's two situations that a person should not travel, but everybody travels. Number one is Hanukkah, and the second one is on Purim. Because those are complicated times. When you travel on Hanukkah, where do you light the menorah? Do you like where you were? Do you like where you not were? What happens on Purim? Same shaila. So without going into details, every single year, every single year, I get a phone call from a bacher who woke up in Beit Shemesh on the morning, for example, this year would be Thursday morning, right? So he's like, oh no, I came last night, I fell asleep, I got drunk, I fell asleep, what do I do now? But etzem, he's chayiv in Purim. Because he went before Nacht, which often they do, so then you could be chayiv in two Purims. You could be chayiv in the Purim on your Dalet, outside Yerushalayim. You could also be chayiv when you come back here on Thursday afternoon, before Thursday night, to be chayiv in Thursday night, Friday Purim as well. So without going into all the shitas and the nafkamina between Alois and Shki and the Chazanish and everyone else, let's just make it very, very simple and very clear for everyone. If you do go out of Yerushalayim, which I'm assuming most of you will, that's Gavaldik, it's beautiful, it's wonderful. You're going to go Wednesday night somewhere, Gavaldik, have a beautiful, wonderful time. Make sure you come back to Yerushalayim to sleep here Wednesday night. And this way you wake up Thursday morning in Yerushalayim, you're not chayiv in Purim. If you would sleep out, you could be chayiv in Purim there. You'll say, what's the big deal? I don't mind getting drunk again, what's the problem? It's not only drunk. You have to listen to Megillah, Batonis Lev Yonim, Shlach Monis, the Suda, everything. Okay, and remember, most times you didn't hear Megillah because you went to sleep and you weren't intending on sleeping there. So you missed the Megillah. So you have to understand, you go there, have a great time, make sure you come back to Yerushalayim on Wednesday night, and go back again Thursday, no problem. And obviously be back here before Nacht on Thursday night to make sure you're chayiv in Yerushalayim's Purim, Tezvov, the Chol HaShitas as well. If you're this way, if you do it that way, that saves from all complication and all shaylas. Your Rebbeinu Shalom should give us a lot of siyata d'shmaya to mekayim the mitzvahs hayom with a true simcha. We should mekabel the Torah, taka kimu v'kiblu, again the Torah with the avas HaTorah, and be'ez Hashem we should be zeicha to the Gila Shchina Shkoyach.